swing and a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawley-Jean.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining me for another dispatch from the desert, we have WGN's own Josh Frydman live. Not technically at Sloan, but close enough. Josh, I got to ask you, because we've been asking everybody from Arizona, what was the temperature today?
Today was, I don't have the exact reading, but I would say probably high 70s. We've been lucky, Crawley. We've been here all week and bouncing back and forth between the Cubs and White Sox. So Mesa and Glendale, and aside for one day that was a little overcast and maybe mid-60s, it has been perfect. I mean, sunny, no clouds, no rain, maybe touching 80, high 70s. So just perfect weather. I know you guys back in Chicago have been getting a little bit of a bump too, close to 50s, maybe even 60 by tomorrow. So maybe we're bringing that nice weather with us east. But yeah, getting my last few rays of sunshine in that I can count on for sure before I fly back.
Yeah, it was 50s today, sunny, and everyone was outside basically in flip-flops and swimming trunks. It was pretty great. But yeah, it is. I just cannot wait to get there. And I got to tell you, Josh, I was going all over your social media. I was excited to see, you just always have such great stuff for anyone that goes to Josh_Frydman on X. But it seems like, the buzz in camp just seems to be very positive. I mean, everybody kind of seems to be in a good mood, smiling. I'm taking a look here at this picture that you took of Jed Hoyer, and he's just smiling and laughing. Everything looks good. I mean, for Jed, let's be honest. I mean, there's not much more he could have done. I mean, I think this team is it looks like it's ready to compete.
Yeah, I think, look, we are understanding, even if we're not always the happiest with the way the Cubs payroll works, we kind of know that they have a limit, and that's right at that tax threshold. And usually they're saving a few bucks for midseason acquisitions. They're never going to spend like the Dodgers or the Mets, but they did this offseason what I thought, if you were to say, Crawley, all right, what are the things they need to improve on? Get a starting pitcher. They traded Frederick Cabrera. Get another, leader / just bat in the middle of the order, guy who's done this before, brings good defense. All right, Alex Bregman, third base. That's what you needed. You also needed to, revamp the bullpen with more just depth, and they did that as well. So there's not really a huge hole entering this spring. There are, of course, always going to be some things you feel like they can get better at, but they haven't traded Nico Horner. They haven't traded Matt Shaw. So you feel like going into this season, the expectations and the words playoffs and World Series that are being thrown around by this club, you don't laugh at it. You feel like, all right, yes, the Dodgers are a class of their own, but why can't the Cubs be right there with them, and the Phillies and the Padres and the Mets as those kind of next tier of teams in the National League? And look, 92 wins last season didn't get you enough to even win your own division. I think the Brewers took a step back, but who knows? The devil magic that's in Milwaukee, it always somehow puts the Brewers in contention by the end. But the clear favorites to me in the division are the Cubs. They're acting that way. They're talking that way. And so, yeah, the vibes are very high right now in Mesa.
You mentioned Alex Bregman at third base. Here's a video of you right here that you took of Alex Bregman taking poor Jameson Taillon deep here. And you got to love the Mesa Plains.
Exactly when Bregman took JMO deep, and I think Taillon had a somewhat playful response on social media, because there were a lot of comments about him being cooked, which I don't get at all. It's we have fun with this. I think people don't understand, like, this is the first time we're seeing guys take batting practice, take swings, throw pitches. We're not saying that means that Jameson Taillon is a bad pitcher or that Alex Bregman is going to hit 40 home runs, but it's just fun to put that content out there. And so fans like it. And I don't think I'm making any comment either way. And I think JMO got word of maybe some social media buzz about that home run that he gave up, and he was like, all right, hold on, I'm going to sign off social media for a little bit. And so, no, that's never the intent of when we post that stuff. I think you being a Cubs fan, a lot of others, whether I'm at Cubs Park or at the White Sox camp, with, their sensation, Munitaka Murakami, you get that, those, especially the guys that are new to the teams, you want as much content as possible, photos, videos. And so, yeah, being boots on the ground here, I try to provide that. And, with Bregman, that has really been the story of the spring, because with these expectations in the World Series chatter, they feel like Bregman was the missing piece. And look, he has done everything right since the Cubs signed him last month. He is, going to video room meetings and talking about not just what he wants to improve on, but what other hitters are working on. He wants to know what guys are doing and what their training routines are. He wants to know what the pitchers are working on too. There's been multiple anecdotes of him going up to guys like Hobie Milner and Phil Maton and being like, yeah, I had to tell on you when you were with, this club a couple years ago, or, I remember this at bat from 2023 with Matthew Boyd. And, this is exactly the breakdown. He is not only a baseball junkie, but he is an information junkie. He craves the information to make himself better, but also because for him, this was interesting when he told us, he's like, it simplifies it for him in a way. When he has that much information, it just for him streamlines the content in a way. So yeah, getting to know him a little bit better as the season goes on, I'm sure, but the first glimpses definitely stand out as a guy who is going to be an A+ in the locker room. And let's remember, Crawley, before he got hurt last season, he told us he was playing the best month and a half of baseball of his career. This is a 3-time All-Star who was telling us his first month and a half in Boston, hitting .299 with a .965, I think, OPS, somewhere in that range, 11 homers in 50 games. He hurt his quad pretty bad. It cost him 7 weeks. But before then, he was on a trajectory where this was a vintage Alex Bregman season. And so if you're going to get anything like that for the Cubs in the middle of the order, it's just a bonus on top of everything else he adds.
And you mentioned, just breaking things down for people, talking to people, his IQ, and this is a video that you posted on your social media.
Obviously getting to know all the guys and the staff, and you could definitely feel the excitement in the air here. Everyone's looking forward to this season, and see how much it means to guys, how hard they're already here working, how much they're talking about the game, how much they're talking about the season. And, it's a winning environment. And, it's been fun to be a part of here for the last few days, and look forward to continuing those conversations and getting to work with this group.
The baseball IQ, when you talk to players around the league, for you is something that makes you stand out. Has that always been a part of what you've done, even as a little kid, picking out things that maybe other people didn't see?
Well, I think that not being the biggest or fastest or strongest or hit the ball as hard as a lot of people or throw the ball as hard as a lot of people or really have the crazy tools. I feel like I have to find a way to take my game to the next level, and that's for me, that's always been kind of the mental side of the game, and always prided myself in being a baseball player and knowing what it takes to win from the mental side.
Now, I'm not gonna put anyone down, because I thought Kyle Tucker, he got hurt last year, but when he was healthy, he looked really, really good. But there's something about the passion for baseball that Alex Bregman brings to the clubhouse that I think is just going to be such a jolt and so good for some of these young guys like Michael Bush and PCA and Matt Shaw, and even the pitchers like you mentioned. I mean, and there's certain guys, Josh, that I remember when I was a kid, and when you knew right away, Joe Girardi was one day going to be a manager. Like, you just knew it. Like there's no doubt in my mind that when Alex Bregman decides to hang up his cleats, he's going to be coaching in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think that if he wanted to go into baseball, he started a brand new facility here in Arizona called Nemesis Baseball. It's a training facility. Matt Shaw actually went there this offseason to work with Bregman and his new facility. That's a great sign. So, it would not surprise me at all if he's sticking around in the game for sure. But hopefully, at least for 5 more years that he signed with the Cubs, is that he's going to be playing for them and contributing in a lot of different ways. But yeah, the young player part is a big deal. He's spoken really highly of Pete Crow Armstrong. He thinks he's going to have his best season yet. PCA has been really happy with the interactions they've had. And not only, look, PCA knows what he needs to work on, and Bregman, he knows it too. But it's the way that he delivers the message that PCA finds really, comforting. He's not trying to be demeaning. He's not saying like, I'm a 10-year veteran and I've won World Series and I know what to do. He's just like, hey, this is what I've picked up on. I'm first of all, like your teammate, I want to make all of us better. I see this for you as being just the next step in your progression. It's all kind of positive reinforcement and affirmation, saying like, you are great. You have this in your skill set to be the PCA we saw in the first half. And let's get these things, that happened in the second half, the swing decisions, some of the, the things that crept into the second half where he struggled obviously at the plate compared to what we saw in the first half. And Bregman's kind of that coach on the field, and to have it come from a player is just a lot different than having it come from a manager or a coach. And I think guys like PCA really respect that.
And not only a player, but probably the best player on your team, and sometimes guys don't feel like that's their job, but it seems like he's going out of his way to really reach out with these young guys. And you talked about Bregman's facility, and everybody has kind of been watching Matt Shaw and this revamped swing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So with the caveat, we have not talked to Matt yet. He is going to probably talk tomorrow, unfortunately, when we're already leaving Arizona. It's their first full day of camp. This is airing Sunday. Their first full day of full squad is Monday, the 16th. And so we have obviously talked with Craig Counsell about Shaw. Bregman talked about Shaw, and just watching him, we'll talk about the swing first. So just, I posted this video as well. It's a social media, watching him take BP. It seems like the leg kick is a little more subtle than it was last year. He had that big leg kick, especially toward the first half of the season. It's a little more toned down. Still there. I think it's, for the timing for him, he's always going to have some type of mechanism there. I also noticed that the bat was more at the 10 o'clock position. Last year, if you watch videos of demotion and then after he came back from AAA, it was either straight up vertically or it was almost on his back shoulder horizontally. And so now it's kind of in the middle of those two. So a little bit of a loose wrist. You can see him waggling the arms a little bit. And so I think he's just trying to find more comfort. He was many times we saw him tinker with the swing last year. So I wonder if he's going to go in with a specific change that he's going to enter the season with and stick to it for a little bit longer, especially if it's working, obviously. But, he's a young player. He's going to continue to find things. Guys that are 5-10-year vets in the majors, they change their swings all the time if they need to. And so, I think that's one thing we're going to watch for Matt Shaw. And the other big thing is defensively, he doesn't have a third base position anymore where he was a Gold Glove finalist. So where does he fit in? And we saw him taking reps in right field. And I think, especially right now, the way I look at this lineup, Crawley, I see the first opportunity for the Cubs to put out the best lineup is, especially against a right-handed pitcher. I see Seiya at DH, and I see Shaw in right field, and against a left-handed pitcher. So Ballesteros will have a lot of at-bats at DH against righties, but against lefties, I think they're going to have as much Shaw in there as possible, and you're going to have Seiya DH, and then we'll see if Shaw has his back going. They're not going to take him out of the lineup. They're going to find a way to get him in. So whether that means he's going to be your everyday right fielder and Ballesteros is going to be your main bench guy, we'll see. Ballesteros has not even arrived at camp. He's had some visa issues. I think that's, for a young player, they're not saying it's a big deal, but the longer that lingers, right, you're missing valuable time. And so, they believe in Matt Shaw's bat. They believe in the versatility as well. And, once the Red Sox went out and traded for Caleb Durbin, that was another spot that Shaw could have possibly been dealt to that was closed. I think they're going to go into the season with him. I think they're going to go in and feel like this is their Ben Zobrist type of player. And they've talked so much about the 2016 team and how that utilized Chris Bryant in the outfield and Javi Baez all over the diamond and Zobrist, obviously. And so they like the versatility that they're going to have with Shaw. And, if he's that chess piece that Craig Counsell can use and spot a few guys from here and there and be in the lineup 5-6 days a week, as long as he's hitting, I think the glove is going to play no matter where it is.
Yeah, and you were talking about young guys, and one of the young guys that really made a difference for the Cubs last year, Cade Horton. They don't get to the postseason without Cade Horton, and last time we saw him, unfortunately, he wasn't pitching. He was trying to get ready, and he just couldn't make it, and the Cubs couldn't win that Game 5. Maybe he would have been in the NLCS. But I thought it was interesting how you had a quote from Counsell on Craig Horton. He dominated the league last year. Now it's do it again and do it over a full season. Workload increased. And this is video you took of Cade, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it was really good, really productive, and feel good, feel healthy. Just normal off season, happy to be back and ready to get going.
Craig described you as dominant last year. What's your confidence level now as you head into this year?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot to prove, right? First year, now guys have scouting report on me. They know my stuff, so just all about going out there and executing pitch and giving my team a chance to win.
What do you feel like that next step forward in your development looks like this year?
I think just being able to repeat. I felt like I ended the year in a good spot, and so just being able to go out there and really hammer down my routine and stay in the process. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
As far as being able to lengthen out, what did you learn last year, knowing you only had 60 to 75 pitches, and how did that help you grow as a pitcher?
Yeah, I think, early on when I got called up, I think I was looking at the game as like this big task, like I got to go out there, go 7 innings, right? And it's just not the case. Like, I think once I had that pitch limit, it's like, all right, I want to go as deep as I can, so I'm going to be as efficient as I can, not worry about strikeouts, just be in the zone, get quick outs, and see where it takes me. Just simplifying the game, and I think that really helped me last year.
Lot to process there, but I mean, I love the fact that he's kind of aware that, hey, they're going to have more tape on me. They're going to know my tendencies, that constant chess game between hitters and pitchers. And I think he shows a maturity, Josh, that I feel is like kind of beyond his years a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good word for it too. I got that sense. And look, the last question I think was interesting. I think Bruce Levine posed that one about the workload. Because, yeah, if we remember, they were tampering down Cade's innings because they were hoping for a potential postseason run. Obviously, the freak rib back injury, terrible timing right before the postseason started, prevented him from going there. But he was, 60, 70 pitches at a kind of a hard cap, and yet he was still making it into the 6th inning. It was pretty incredible. And I look back, the strikeout numbers for a guy that you would think, especially in the minors with what he was doing, would have at least a strikeout per inning, but it really was not even close. I think he had less than 100 strikeouts in 118 innings. And so you become that next dominant pitcher in your trajectory by trying to strike out at least one batter per inning. And he pitched a little bit more contact last season. I thought the fielding independent pitching, the FIP, was about a ERA, about a run higher than the ERA last season. So maybe he got a little lucky with some of the metrics. And yeah, that comes with when you don't strike as many guys out, right? You're putting the ball in play, and we know that just has the randomness attached to it. So the stuff is there. We saw it last season, the changeup, the sinker, sweeper, the fastball that plays, up in the zone too. Like he can control his pitches for a young player very well. And yeah, it's about repeating that, like he said. And any young pitcher who has success early in their careers, it's about, all right, they know what he was a little bit of a surprise last season, right? Guys were not seeing him very often. And so it's like, all right, they know what I can do now. How do I counteract that? How do I go back and self-assess and see what I can do better? And so I think for him, one thing to look forward to the season, obviously, besides staying healthy, but can he do it for a full season? 150 innings, 160 innings. And I think those strikeout numbers are going to be important. I think, to see that dominance of Cade Horton, because if he's going to go 80, 90 pitches in a game, does he have to be a little less reserved about like, all right, maybe I'm just going to pitch to contact here last season because I can only go 60, 70 pitches and I want to get through 5 or 6 innings versus like, all right, if they're going to give me a little bit longer of a leash, I'm going to try to get some guys out at the plate versus seeing what the contact is produced. So yeah, he's definitely at his best, Paul. I think, you're 1A or 1B heading into the season for sure.
Now, is there anything else that you would say what stood out to you from your observation at Cubs camp?
The bullpen's going to be interesting because I was thinking back to this too. If you remember going into camp last season, Ryan Presley was your closer. Brad Keller and Drew Pomerantz were on minor league non-roster invitee deals to spring training. Okay. And we know everything got flipped on its head. Presley did not turn out to be the closer you were hoping for. He gets cut. Keller ends up being the guy late in the season. Daniel Palencia, who had not really proven anything in the majors, becomes your closer until he gets hurt. And, it just shows the fickleness of bullpens to me. And the Cubs are kind of handling it in the same way. They brought in a lot of non-roster invite guys. They made a bunch of acquisitions, 1 and 2 year deals for guys like Hobie Milner, who has been with Council before in Milwaukee. Phil Maton got a 2-year deal. Look at his Baseball Savant page. It is crazy. He throws one of the slowest fastballs in the league, and yet the whiff rates and the advanced metrics of about like just the way he fools guys, it's all in the 97, 98, 99 percentile of swing and miss stuff, which is crazy. So he's going to be a late inning leverage guy. Hunter Harvey has the stuff. He's just got to stay healthy. So they've kind of replaced those names that they used last season with this new batch of guys. And the only familiar names really in the back end are Palencia, who I thought it was interesting that Council said, hey, he's going to be your closer day one. Council kind of downplayed it in a way to me, saying like, yeah, like it's not that big of a deal. He earned it last season, but that stuff also changes. They're not going to be like Palencia is our closer and we're going to be stuck to it if he has 3 or 4 shaky, outings in April and May. They're very much going to be like a read and react team. And we saw that last season, right, with all the changes they made. So I thought the bullpen's going to be an interesting thing. Can guys like Porter Hodge get their edge back? Porter said he lost a little bit of his mental confidence last season when it came to the injuries and his performance. So he felt like he's really healthy and going to go out there and try to win a job. So, the bullpens are always interesting, but the pitching depth in general, I really like the depth. If Justin Steele can come back in May or June and be right now would be your 6th starting pitcher on a fully healthy team. That's not even counting the Javier Assads and Colin Rays and Ben Browns of the world that can give you innings too. So they felt like from last season, they ran out of gas and they didn't have the arms to get them through a postseason series after the wild card round. They wanted to make sure that was not going to be the case this season. And so I think they've addressed that a little bit. We'll see. And of course, that means they can also go out and get more arms during the trade deadline if they continue to be what looks like a true contender.
And I got to ask, what was the Charles Barkley? What was Charles Barkley doing? First off, in this picture, you have Rick Sutcliffe, who's there coaching up the pitchers. You got Charles Barkley and you got Alex Bregman. I mean, to be on a fly on the wall, to listen to those guys. I mean, what was going on? What was Charles doing there?
Well, first of all, he's no longer the round mound of rebound. He slimmed down. He looks good. I mean, maybe it's the Ozempic diet or whatever, but he's looking good. And he's friends with Sutcliffe. They go way back. And so Sut brought him as a guest. It was the talk of camp the other day. It was like, oh, Charles Barkley is here. He's wearing that new Cubs light blue Cactus League hat, which I really liked. And he was just kind of chatting with guys. He talked with Bregman, obviously, here. He talked with PCA. He was on the cart going through the different fields. He's talking to Fergie Jenkins. So it was cool. I asked Council about it, and he's like, yeah, we had a meeting for 30 minutes in my my office, and he's got a huge heart. That's what I love about him the most. But he's like, he's a big deal. This is a big deal. Even if you're a baseball player, a hockey player, football, like it's not just that Charles Barkley is an NBA great, but he is like one of the more famous people in the world because of especially his broadcasting career and some of the things, the unfilteredness of his his studio hits for what was Turner and now ESPN. So yeah, it was cool to see. I wish we got a chance to talk with him, but he seemed like he was a little busy.
Well, that's the thing you love about spring training. You never know who's going to pop up and what's going to happen. And I think with Cubs training, spring training, even more so, you know what I mean? It's just so unique. And I see everybody out there just having fun. And I'm itching to get over there, Josh, but I appreciate you jumping on, giving us a couple minutes before you fly back and bring some of that warm weather here to Chicago. Tell our listeners where they can find all your content, because, there's so much great stuff that you had when you were out there.
Well, I appreciate it, Crawley. Always a pleasure to jump on the Fly the W pod with you guys. And at Josh_Frydman is on X, just Josh Frydman on Instagram as well, and Facebook. So all different types of places. And of course, on WGNTV.com is the website for us. WGN's YouTube page. We post a lot of our videos and extended interviews as well. And then every night on GN Sports at 10:30, you can catch me and the rest of the team talking Cubs and White Sox and everything else Chicago sports.
Appreciate you jumping on, and we'll talk again soon. Safe travels, my friend.
Thank you, sir.